I noticed the seal was broken on my meds, so I pretended to take them and sleep. While peeking through the crack, the nurse touched my shoulder and said, "At midnight, the mask will fall." When midnight came, I threw up in disgust at what I saw. Before we continue, comment where you're watching from, and subscribe to the channel. We'd love to see how far our stories are reaching. The pill bottle felt wrong in my hand. I stood in my bathroom at 9:47 p.m., the fluorescent light making everything look too bright, too clinical. The white cap was supposed to be sealed. That's what the pharmacy always did with my blood pressure medication. A little plastic ring around the neck of the bottle that made a satisfying crack when you twisted it for the first time. This one had no ring. I held the bottle up to the light. The amber plastic was the same. The label was correct. Francis Ellington, 1 tablet daily. Dr. Raymond Foster. But someone had opened this before it reached my hands. My bedroom door was half closed. Through the gap, I could hear Celeste moving around downstairs, probably tidying up the kitchen after dinner. She'd been my home health aide for 6 weeks now, ever since Beth insisted I needed professional care following Robert's death. My daughter, the lawyer, always knew what was best for everyone. I unscrewed the cap carefully. The chemical smell hit me immediately. Sharp, medicinal, but different from my usual prescription. Under the overhead light, the tablets looked identical to what I'd been taking for 15 years. Small, round, pale pink. But when I brought one close to my nose, there was something else underneath the standard pharmaceutical coating. Something that reminded me of the recovery room at Mercy Hospital, where they'd kept Robert those final 3 days. Ether, medical-grade sedative compounds. I'd been a hospital accountant for 32 years before I retired. I knew that smell. My hands started shaking. I thought about this morning, how I'd slept until 11 a.m. for the 3rd time this week. How yesterday I'd forgotten I'd already made coffee and started a second pot. How last Tuesday, James had asked me about Dad's war medals, and I'd stared at him blankly for almost a minute before remembering what he meant. Beth had been there for that conversation. She'd given James a look, quick, meaningful, the kind of glance that passes between people who share a secret. Then she'd touched my shoulder with exaggerated gentleness. "Mom's just tired," she'd said. Grief does funny things to memory. I'd believed her. I'd actually believed I was losing my mind. The bathroom mirror showed a woman who'd aged 10 years in 6 months. I was 64, not 90. My hair had gone grayer since Robert died, yes, but my eyes were clear. My hands were steady when they weren't shaking from whatever they'd been giving me. I poured the pills into my palm, counted them, 30 tablets, exactly as prescribed. I put them back in the bottle, then hid the bottle in my robe pocket instead of leaving it on the counter where Celeste would see it during her nightly check. The memory came without warning, the way painful things always do. 15 years ago. James was 33, married to Linda for 5 years, with their first baby on the way. I'd noticed my checkbook didn't balance. Small amounts at first. $20 here, $50 there. Then I'd found the withdrawal slip in the washing machine when I was doing his laundry during one of their weekend visits. $15,000. He'd had my spare checkbook from when I'd asked him to deposit some checks while I was recovering from surgery. He'd forged my signature on a withdrawal slip. When I confronted him, he'd broken down completely. Gambling debts. Online poker. He'd gotten in over his head with people who'd threatened to hurt Linda and the baby. I'd never told Robert. I'd never told Beth. I'd just quietly transferred money from my personal savings to cover it, made James promise to get help, and we'd never spoken of it again. He'd been clean for 14 years after that, as far as I knew. But I'd seen something in my son that day that I'd never wanted to see. The ability to look at someone who loved him and take what wasn't his. The capacity to forge my name, to steal from his own mother, and to sleep at night afterward. Had I saved him then, or just taught him that consequences were optional? A soft knock on the bathroom door made me jump. "Mrs. Ellington?" Celeste's voice was quiet, accented with the musical tones of Mandarin underneath her English. "Are you okay? You've been in there a long time." I opened the door. She stood in the hallway with her hands clasped in front of her, small and nervous in her blue scrubs. She was 35 but looked younger, with tired eyes that never quite met mine directly. "I'm fine, dear. Just taking my time." She glanced at my empty hands, then at the bathroom counter where the pill bottle usually sat. "You take medicine already?" "Yes," I lied. "Just now." Something flickered across her face. Relief? Guilt? It passed too quickly for me to read. Good. You need rest." She hesitated, then stepped closer and lowered her voice. "Mrs. Ellington, Her phone buzzed in her pocket. She pulled it out, looked at the screen, and her whole body went rigid. Her fingers tightened around the phone until her knuckles went white. I must go make phone call, she said quickly. You go bed now, okay? I come check on you in little bit. She was already walking away before I could respond. I watched her hurry down the stairs, her shoulders hunched like someone expecting a blow. In my bedroom, I changed into my nightgown but didn't get into bed. Instead, I sat in the chair by the window and waited. The house settled around me with familiar sounds. The furnace clicking on, the refrigerator humming downstairs, the old floorboards creaking. At 10:30, I heard Celeste's voice from the first floor. She was speaking Mandarin, rapid and distressed. I couldn't understand the words, but I understood the tone. Fear, pleading. I'd learned some Mandarin 6 years ago when James and Linda adopted Sophie from China. I'd wanted to be able to speak to my granddaughter in her first language, to honor where she came from. I'd let it lapse after the adoption was finalized, and Sophie had started speaking primarily English. Now I wished I'd kept up with it. Celeste's voice cut off abruptly. Silence. Then her footsteps on the stairs, slower than usual. She appeared in my doorway, her face composed but her eyes red. You should be in bed, Mrs. Ellington. I'm not tired yet. But you take medicine. Medicine make you sleepy. Maybe tonight it won't. We looked at each other. In that moment I saw her clearly, not my employee, not even really my caregiver. A woman caught in something bigger than both of us. A woman who was afraid. Celeste, I said gently. Who was on the phone? No one. Wrong number. She came into the room and pulled back my bed covers with more force than necessary. You must sleep. Doctors say you need good sleep. Which doctor? Dr. Foster hasn't seen me in 3 weeks. Her hands stilled on the blankets. Your daughter, she say. What does my daughter say? Celeste's face crumpled. She sat down on the edge of my bed and buried her face in her hands. When she looked up, there were tears on her cheeks. Dui bu ki, she whispered. Dui bu ki. I knew those words. I'm sorry. Forgive me. She reached out and touched my hand. A brief, desperate gesture, then stood up quickly and practically ran from the room. I sat in the dark for a long time after she left, holding the pill bottle in my pocket. The house was quiet, except for the sound of Celeste crying softly in the guest room down the hall. At 11:55 p.m., I heard a car pull into my driveway. Footsteps on the porch. My front door opening. Beth had a key, of course. Her voice, low and controlled, speaking to Celeste in the entryway. I got out of bed silently and moved to my bedroom door. Left it open just a crack. Did she take them? Beth's voice. Yes. She say yes. Celeste. Uncertain. You watched her? A pause. She was in bathroom. She say she take them. That's not what I asked. Beth's tone dropped to something cold. Did you watch the pills go in her mouth? Silence. Celeste, we've talked about this. She's getting worse. The confusion. The memory problems. If she doesn't take her medication properly, she could hurt herself. We might have to move faster than we planned. I don't think she confused, Celeste said quietly. I think she... You think? Beth's laugh was sharp. You're a home health aide, not a neurologist. My mother is declining. The doctors have confirmed it. Your job is to make sure she takes her medication and stays safe. That's what we're paying you for. That's what's keeping you here instead of on a plane back to Beijing. Through the crack, I watched Celeste's shoulders hunch. I understand, she whispered. Good. Make sure she takes the morning dose. I'll be here tomorrow at 9 to take her to the lawyer's office. We need to finalize the trust paperwork before things get worse. Beth's heels clicked across my hardwood floor. Then her voice again, softer but somehow more threatening. And Celeste, my brother told me about your son. 6 years old, right? Living with your sister in Queens while you work to send money home. It would be terrible if immigration found out about your status. Terrible for both of you. The front door closed. The car started. Drove away. I stood frozen in the darkness of my bedroom, my heart pounding so hard I thought it might break through my ribs. When I finally moved back to my chair by the window, the first gray light of dawn was already touching the eastern sky. I pretended to be asleep when Celeste knocked at 7 a.m. She opened the door carefully, the way you do when you're checking on someone you expect to find unconscious. I kept my breathing slow and even, my body slack against the pillows. Through half-closed eyelids, I watched her approach the bed. She stood there for almost a minute just looking at me. Her face was puffy from crying. She reached out once, as if to touch my shoulder, then pulled her hand back and left the room without a sound. I waited 5 minutes before getting up. The morning routine had to look normal. Shower, dress, breakfast. I chose my navy cardigan and gray slacks. The outfit Beth always said made me look presentable. I needed her to see what she expected to see. A docile mother, a confused widow, a woman sliding gently into incompetence. In the kitchen, Celeste had already made coffee and oatmeal. She jumped when I entered, nearly dropping the bowl she was holding. "Good morning, Mrs. Ellington. You sleep good?" "Very well, thank you." I sat at the table and smiled at her. "This looks wonderful." She brought me the bowl with shaking hands. Next to it, she placed a small paper cup with my morning medications, the blood pressure pill I wasn't taking, plus 2 others I didn't recognize. "What are these?" I asked, pointing to the unfamiliar tablets. "For your heart. Doctors say you need them now. Dr. Foster didn't mention anything about new medications. Different doctor. Your daughter take you to specialist last month. You don't remember?" I did not remember, because it never happened. "Oh," I said, letting confusion cloud my face. "I suppose I forgot." Relief washed over Celeste's features. She nodded encouragingly. "Yes, you forget sometimes. Is okay. That why I here, to help you remember." I picked up the paper cup and brought it to my lips, let my hand tremble slightly, tilted my head back as if swallowing. The pills went into my cheek, tucked against my gums. "Good," Celeste said. "Very good. Now eat breakfast. Your daughter coming soon." The moment she turned to the sink, I spit the pills into my cloth napkin, wrapped them carefully and tucked the bundle into my cardigan pocket with yesterday's evening dose. The oatmeal tasted like paste in my mouth, but I forced down half the bowl. I needed to appear functional but not too sharp. Compliant but not suspicious. Beth arrived at exactly 9 a.m. as promised. She let herself in without knocking, her heels announcing her presence before her voice did. "Morning, Mom." She kissed my cheek, a brief press of lips that held no warmth. She smelled of expensive perfume and coffee from the drive-through place she favored. "You ready to go?" "Go where, dear?" Her smile was patient, practiced. "The lawyer's office, remember? We talked about this yesterday. We need to sign some papers about the house." "The house?" "Your house, Mom. We're just making sure everything's in order, making things easier for you to manage." She turned to Celeste. "Did she take her morning medications?" "Yes, Miss Beth. I watch her." Another lie by omission. Celeste was learning the family language. Beth's car was a silver Mercedes, less than a year old. She'd made partner at Morrison, Chen and Associates 2 years ago. Her salary was north of $200,000, according to James, who'd mentioned it with a mix of pride and resentment during one of his rare visits. The law office was downtown, in one of the renovated buildings near the courthouse. Morrison, Chen and Associates occupied the entire 3rd floor. The receptionist greeted Beth by name and ushered us immediately into a conference room with a view of Main Street. "Coffee, Mrs. Ellington?" the receptionist asked. "No, thank you." "Mom, you love coffee," Beth said, her voice layered with concern for the receptionist's benefit. "She'll have some, cream and sugar." The coffee arrived in a proper china cup. I took a sip and tasted something underneath the bitterness. Not strong, just a hint of the same chemical note from my pills. I set the cup down and didn't touch it again. A man entered the room carrying a leather portfolio. Mid-50s, gray at the temples, expensive suit. He introduced himself as Roger Pattinson, senior partner. "Mrs. Ellington, it's good to see you again. How are you feeling today?" "Again?" I let my brow furrow. "Have we met before?" Beth and Mr. Pattinson exchanged a glance. "We had a consultation about your estate planning 3 weeks ago," he said gently. "You signed some preliminary documents." "I don't recall that." "That's all right." His smile was professionally sympathetic. "That's actually why we're here today, to make sure everything is clear and documented properly given your current state of health." He opened the portfolio and spread several documents across the conference table. Legal-sized papers dense with text and signature lines. "This is a revocable living trust," he explained. "It places your assets, your home, your savings, your late husband's life insurance policy, into a trust that can be managed on your behalf if you become unable to do so yourself." Why would I be unable? Another glance between Beth and Mr. Pattinson. "Mom," Beth said softly, taking my hand, "you've been having some memory issues. The doctor says it's normal for your age, especially with the stress of losing Dad, but we need to plan ahead, just in case." "What doctor?" "Dr. Harrington, the neurologist I took you to see last month." I pulled my hand away. "I don't remember any neurologist." "I know, Mom. That's the problem." Beth's voice broke slightly. "Perfect timing. You don't remember our conversations about this. You don't remember signing the power of attorney. Yesterday you asked me 3 times when Dad was coming home from work. That last part was a lie." A complete, calculated lie delivered with tears in her eyes. "Mrs. Ellington," Mr. Pattinson interjected, "I have Dr. Harrington's evaluation right here." He pulled a document from the portfolio. "Would you like me to read it?" I nodded, not trusting my voice. He cleared his throat. "Patient shows signs of mild cognitive impairment consistent with early-stage dementia. Short-term memory significantly affected. Patient becomes confused when discussing recent events and often conflates past and present. Recommendation: establish legal protections for financial affairs and medical decisions, while patient still has capacity to participate in planning." The words hit like stones, each one carefully chosen to paint a picture of incompetence. "This is dated 3 weeks ago," I said. "I never saw Dr. Harrington." Beth stood up and walked to the window. Her shoulders shook slightly. "This is so hard," she said to Mr. Pattinson. "She gets angry when we try to help. Last week she accused James of stealing from her. He was just helping her balance her checkbook. James hadn't been to my house in over a month." "Mrs. Ellington," Mr. Pattinson said, his voice dropping to that tone people use with children and the confused elderly. "I understand this is difficult, but your daughter is trying to protect you. She loves you very much. These documents ensure that if something happens, if you fall or get sick or simply can't manage things anymore, everything is taken care of. Your bills get paid, your house is maintained, you're protected. Who would manage the trust? Your daughter, as primary trustee. Your son James as secondary trustee in case Beth is unavailable. Both my children. That's right. The people who love you most." I looked at the documents spread before me. The language was dense, deliberately opaque. But I'd spent 32 years reading hospital financial documents. I knew how to find the important clauses buried in the paragraphs of legal boilerplate. Section 4. 2. Upon determination of incapacity by 2 licensed physicians, all assets shall be transferred to trust management with full discretionary authority granted to primary trustee. Section 7. 1. Primary trustee shall receive reasonable compensation for trust management services, not to exceed 15% of total trust assets annually. I did the math in my head. My house was worth approximately $320,000. Robert's life insurance had been $450,000. Our savings and retirement accounts totaled another $120,000, just under $900,000 total. 15% of $890,000 was $130,500 per year. Beth made $200,000 as a lawyer. But if I were declared incompetent, she could pay herself $133,500 annually for managing my money. Money that would eventually come to her anyway when I died. But this way, she got it now, plus her inheritance later. "I need to think about this," I said. "Mom, we've been over this so many times." Beth returned to the table and sat beside me. She took my hand again, more firmly this time. "You agreed to this 3 weeks ago. You signed the preliminary papers. We just need your signature on the final documents. Why the rush?" Mr. Pattinson closed his portfolio. "Mrs. Ellington, I'm legally obligated to ensure you have capacity to sign these documents. If you're experiencing confusion about why you're here or what we've discussed, I'm concerned that we may need to expedite the guardianship process instead." "Guardianship?" "A court-appointed guardian who would make all decisions on your behalf. It's more restrictive than a trust, but if you're not able to participate meaningfully in your own planning, I'll sign," I said. Beth's grip on my hand tightened with triumph. "You will? I need to use the restroom first." In the bathroom, I locked the door and leaned against the sink. My reflection looked back at me, a woman who was running out of time. Whatever they were giving me in those pills, whatever Dr. Harrington had written in his fraudulent evaluation, they were building a case, a paper trail that would end with me in a facility somewhere while my children spent my money. I pulled out my phone. It was an old flip phone, not a smartphone. Beth had tried to get me to upgrade several times, but I'd refused. Now I was grateful for my stubbornness. Harder to track, harder to monitor. I had one contact I could trust. Robert's brother Martin lived in Columbus. He'd been a lawyer before he retired. We'd never been particularly close, but he was honest. More importantly, he had no financial stake in my situation. The text was simple. "Need help. Legal matter. Urgent. Can you call?" I flushed the toilet for appearance's sake and washed my hands. When I came back to the conference room, Beth and Mr. Pattinson were standing close together by the window, speaking in low voices. They separated when I entered. "All right," I said. "Show me where to sign." Mr. Pattinson placed the first document in front of me. "This establishes the trust and names the trustees." I picked up the pen. My phone buzzed in my pocket. Martin calling back already. I let it go to voicemail. "Mom?" Beth leaned over my shoulder. Are you okay? Just reading. You don't need to read every word. Mr. Pattinson has explained everything. I signed the first document, then the second. The pen felt heavy in my hand, like I was signing away more than just legal authority. On the fourth document, my phone buzzed again. Beth frowned. Who's calling you? I don't know. I'll check later. Mom, let me see your phone. Beth, I'm trying to concentrate. She reached for my pocket. I pulled away, and the sudden movement knocked my purse off the chair. Contents spilled across the floor. Wallet, tissues, loose change, and the napkin with yesterday's pills. The napkin unfolded. 6 tablets rolled across the polished wood floor. The silence was absolute. Beth stared at the pills, then at me. Her face transformed. Shock, anger, fear, calculation. All of it flashing past in the space of 2 seconds before settling into something worse. Pity, theatrical, practiced pity. Oh, Mom, she said, kneeling beside me to gather the pills. Are you hiding your medications again? We talked about this. This is exactly what Dr. Harrington warned us about. Mr. Pattinson was already on his phone. I'm calling Dr. Harrington now. This clearly demonstrates lack of capacity to make informed decisions. I'm perfectly capable, I said, but my voice sounded weak even to my own ears. Beth helped me back into my chair. Her hand on my shoulder was gentle but immovable. Mr. Pattinson, I think we need to discuss guardianship proceedings. Today, this has gone on long enough. My phone buzzed a third time. Beth pulled it from my pocket before I could stop her. 3 missed calls from Martin Ellington, she read aloud. Then she looked at me with something like genuine surprise. You called Uncle Martin? I wanted to talk to him. About what? About Robert. I missed talking to him about Robert. The lie came smoothly, born of desperation. Beth's expression softened slightly. Mom, Uncle Martin is 81. He has dementia. He's in assisted living. He can't help you. That was news to me. Martin had sent me a Christmas card last month with a perfectly lucid message. I'll take care of this, Beth said, turning off my phone and putting it in her purse. We're going home. You need to rest. Mr. Pattinson, can we schedule an emergency hearing? I'll file the paperwork this afternoon. In the car, Beth didn't speak. She drove with her jaw tight, her knuckles white on the steering wheel. When we pulled into my driveway, she finally turned to me. Why? She asked. Why would you hide your medications? Because they make me feel strange. They're supposed to help you feel better. They make me sleep all day. They make me forget things. You forget things because you're sick, Mom. The medicine is supposed to slow down the progression. What if I'm not sick? Beth's laugh was sharp and humorless. Mom, you don't remember meeting with a neurologist. You don't remember signing legal documents 3 weeks ago. You accused James of stealing from you when he was just helping. You hid your pills in a napkin like a child. You don't think you're sick? She got out of the car and came around to open my door. Helped me out with exaggerated care as if I might break. Inside, Celeste was waiting in the living room, wringing her hands. Beth pulled her aside and spoke in a voice just loud enough for me to hear. She's been hiding her medications. I found 6 pills she should have taken. We're moving up the timeline. I need you to start documenting everything. Write down every time she seems confused, every time she forgets something, every time she says or does anything unusual. You understand? Celeste nodded miserably. Good. I'm going to make some calls. Watch her. Beth went into the kitchen and closed the door. I could hear her voice rising and falling, urgent and angry. I climbed the stairs to my bedroom slowly, aware of Celeste watching me from the bottom step. When I reached the top, I turned back. She was still there, tears streaming down her face. Douy Bouki, she whispered again. Douy Bouki. In my room, I sat on the bed and tried to think. They had everything now. Fake medical records, legal documents, a paper trail of confusion and incapacity. My own pills as evidence of incompetence rather than self-protection. And they had my phone. Through the floor, I could hear Beth's voice from the kitchen. By the end of the week, once the judge signs the order, we can move her to Meadowbrook. They have an opening in the memory care unit. Memory care, a locked facility for dementia patients. I had 3 days, maybe 4, before they could have me declared incompetent and institutionalized. My purse sat beside me on the bed. I opened it carefully and found what I was looking for tucked into a hidden pocket. The business card Dr. Foster had given me last year, with his personal cell phone number on the back. In case of emergency, he'd said, this qualified. But first I needed to gather evidence. Real evidence. Not just my word against Beth's manufactured paper trail. I went to my closet and pulled down the hat box from the top shelf. Inside were things I'd kept over the years, old photos, letters, important documents. At the very bottom was something I'd forgotten about until this moment. Robert's old micro-cassette recorder. He'd used it to record notes for his history book, the one he'd never finished. The batteries were probably dead, but the device itself might still work. I held it in my hands and thought about my daughter downstairs, planning to lock me away in a facility where I'd be sedated and silenced. I thought about James, complicit in his sister's scheme, just like he'd been complicit in stealing from me 15 years ago. And I thought about Celeste, trapped between conscience and survival. The recorder felt like a weapon, small, but potentially deadly to their plans. If I could make it through the next 3 days without being committed, without taking their drugs, without giving them any more ammunition, if I could stay lucid and sharp and gather proof, then maybe I had a chance. But I needed help. Real help, from someone outside this trap. My eyes fell on the window overlooking the back garden. The fence separated my yard from my neighbors, Mrs. Patricia Joe, who'd lived there for 20 years. We'd never been particularly close, but we were cordial. She was the kind of neighbor who brought over tomatoes from her garden in summer and accepted my Christmas cookies in winter. She was also a retired federal prosecutor. I watched through the window as Beth's car pulled out of the driveway. She'd be gone for at least an hour, enough time for lunch and whatever other arrangements she was making for my imprisonment. I needed to act now. I waited until Celeste went downstairs to start laundry before I slipped out the back door. The October air was crisp, smelling of dried leaves and distant wood smoke. My garden looked neglected. Robert had always tended it, and I hadn't had the heart to touch it since he died. The tomato plants were brown and withered on their stakes. The roses needed pruning. Mrs. Joe was in her yard, pulling up the last of her pepper plants. She looked up when she heard my gate creak. "Francis, are you all right?" I must have looked worse than I thought. "Patricia, I need to talk to you. Privately. It's important." She set down her gardening tools immediately and gestured toward her back door. "Come in. I'll make tea." Her kitchen was warm and cluttered in a comfortable way. Cookbooks stacked on the counter, herbs drying by the window, a cat sleeping in a patch of sunlight. Normal. Safe. "What's happened?" she asked as the kettle heated. I told her everything. The pills with the broken seal, the conversation I'd overheard between Beth and Celeste, the lawyer's office, the fake medical records, the trust documents designed to drain my assets while I was alive and helpless. Patricia listened without interrupting, her prosecutor's face giving nothing away. When I finished, she was quiet for a long moment. "Do you still have the pills?" "Some of them, hidden in my room." "Good. We'll need those analyzed." She pulled out her phone. "I'm going to call someone, a friend who works in elder abuse investigation. But Francis, I need to ask you something important." "What? Are you absolutely certain you haven't been experiencing memory problems? Confusion? Anything that might explain what Beth is claiming?" The question stung, but I understood why she had to ask. "I'm certain. I'm grieving. I'm tired. But I'm not confused. Until they started drugging me, I was fine." She nodded slowly. "The problem is, they've built a paper trail. Medical records, legal documents, witness statements. Even if you're telling the truth, and I believe you are, proving it will be difficult." "What about the pills? If they analyze them and find sedatives I'm not prescribed, that proves someone tampered with your medication. It doesn't prove who or that it was part of a conspiracy. Beth's lawyer will argue you mixed them up yourself. More evidence of confusion." Patricia poured tea into 2 mugs. "We need more. We need documentation of the financial transactions. We need to know exactly how much money has already been moved and where it went." "How do I get that? Do you have online access to your bank accounts?" "No." Beth said I kept forgetting my passwords, so she set up automatic bill pay and said she'd handle everything. I felt the weight of my own naivety pressing down on me. I let her. I trusted her. "Of course you did. She's your daughter." Patricia's voice was gentle but firm. "Can you get to a bank branch? Request paper statements?" "Not without Celeste knowing. She reports everything to Beth now." Patricia thought for a moment. "I have a friend at First National. Let me see what I can do unofficially. In the meantime, you need to document everything. Every conversation, every interaction, dates, times, witnesses. Keep a journal somewhere Beth won't find it. They're planning to move me to a memory care facility. End of the week. Then we don't have much time." She pulled out a business card and wrote a number on the back. "This is my cell. Call me day or night. And Francis, don't take any more of those pills. Not even to keep up appearances. Whatever they're giving you could cause real damage." When I got back to my house, Celeste was in the kitchen cutting vegetables for dinner. She looked up guiltily when I entered. Where you go? Just getting some air in the garden. Miss Beth say you're not supposed to go outside alone. You might fall. I'm 64, not 90. Celeste's eyes filled with tears again. Please, Mrs. Ellington. Please, just do what they say. Make it easier. Easier for whom? She didn't answer, just turned back to her vegetables with shaking hands. I went upstairs and lay down on my bed, too exhausted to do anything else. Through the window, I could see the maple tree in my backyard. Its leaves turned brilliant red and gold. Robert had planted that tree when we moved into this house 38 years ago. It had been just a sapling then, barely taller than me. Now it towered over everything, strong and established, deep roots, branches that had weathered decades of storms. I must have dozed off, because when I opened my eyes, the light had changed. Early evening. My phone. Beth still had my phone. But there was a soft knock on my door. Mrs. Ellington? Dinner ready. I went downstairs. Celeste had set the table for two. Apparently, Beth wasn't coming back tonight. The food smelled good, but I had no appetite. You eat, Celeste urged. You getting too thin. I forced down a few bites of chicken and rice. Celeste sat across from me, not eating, just watching me with anxious eyes. Celeste, I said quietly, how old is your son? She startled. Why you ask? You mentioned him once, a few weeks ago. Her face softened slightly. He is 6. His name is Tommy. He lived with my sister in New York. You must miss him. Every day. Every day I miss him. Her voice broke. But I send money. Good school, good food, good life. Better than I give him in China. How often do you see him? 3, 4 times a year. When I save enough for bus ticket. I looked at this woman who'd been forced to choose between her conscience and her child's welfare. What would I have done in her position? How far would I have gone to protect my own children? Too far, apparently. I'd protected James 15 years ago, hidden his theft, enabled his weakness, and now he was helping Beth steal from me. Mrs. Ellington, Celeste said suddenly, I tell you something. But you cannot tell Miss Beth, I tell you. I nodded. She got up and went to her room. When she came back, she was carrying a folder. She placed it on the table between us with trembling hands. Miss Beth say I must keep record. Write down every time you confused, every time you forget things. For the doctors, for the judge. She opened the folder. Inside were pages of handwritten notes, dated and detailed. But most of these, I make them up. Miss Beth tell me what to write, things that never happen. I read through the entries. October 3rd. Patient forgot she already ate breakfast, tried to make second meal. October 7th. Patient couldn't remember grandson's name, became agitated when corrected. October 12th. Patient wandered outside in nightgown, confused about time of day. None of it was true. Why are you showing me this? Celeste's face was anguished. Because I cannot do this anymore. I cannot hurt you. You are kind woman. You treat me like person, not like servant. But Miss Beth, she say if I don't help, she call immigration. They deport me, and Tommy. She couldn't finish. I understand. But I also think, maybe if you see this, maybe you can fight. Show these notes are lies. Show I was forced to write them. It was a risk for her. Huge risk. If Beth found out Celeste had shown me these records, she'd be fired immediately. Reported to immigration. Separated from her son. Thank you, I said. This helps. This helps more than you know. She nodded and quickly put the folder away. You finish eating now. Then I must give you evening medicine. Celeste? I know, you not take them, but I must give them to you. Miss Beth checked the bottles, count the pills. If wrong number, she know. So we performed our little play. Celeste gave me the pills in their paper cup. I pretended to swallow them. She nodded and cleared the dishes. Later, alone in my room, I took out the pills I'd hidden and examined them more carefully. Small, round white tablets with no markings. Not my usual blood pressure medication at all. Something else entirely. I wrapped them carefully in tissue and hid them inside an old jewelry box at the back of my closet. Evidence. Then I found a notebook, an old address book that was mostly empty, and started writing. Dates, times, conversations, everything I could remember from the past 6 weeks since Celeste had arrived. I was still writing when I heard a car in the driveway. 11:30 p.m. I turned off my light and moved to the window. Beth's Mercedes, and another car behind it. James's Honda. They both came inside. I cracked my bedroom door open and listened to the voices from downstairs. Can't wait until Friday. James was saying. She's getting suspicious. What if she goes to someone? Like who? She doesn't have her phone. I'm monitoring her email. She hasn't left the house except to go to the lawyer's office with me. She could talk to the neighbors. The neighbors think she's losing her mind. I've made sure of that. Beth's voice was cold, efficient. Mrs. Patterson from 2 doors down asked me last week how Mom was doing with her condition. I've been laying groundwork for months. How much have you moved so far? Papers rustling. About $240,000 from her savings accounts, split between 2 offshore accounts, untraceable. My knees went weak. $240,000. Almost $250,000. Already gone. Jesus, Beth. What if she notices? She doesn't look at her statements anymore. I told her it was too confusing for her. She trusted me to handle everything. And the house? The trust paperwork goes through Friday. Once she signs, or once the judge declares her incompetent, which he will, I can sell it. Market value is around $320,000. After commission and closing costs, we'll net about $290,000. So total. Just over $500,000 once everything's liquidated. Your share is 40% like we agreed. $200,000. Silence. Then James's voice quieter. You really think this is necessary? I mean, she's our mother. She's dying anyway, James. The drugs will speed it up a little, that's all. This way we get the money while we can use it. Your gambling debts get paid. My practice gets the capital infusion it needs. And she gets to spend her last months in a nice facility where she's cared for professionally. She won't be conscious enough to know where she is. Exactly. It's merciful, really. I pressed my hand over my mouth to keep from making a sound. They were planning to kill me. Slowly, legally, with drugs and institutions and paperwork. And James, my son, who I'd protected and forgiven and loved, was going along with it for $200,000. When do we move her to Meadowbrook? James asked. Saturday. Dr. Harrington is filing emergency commitment papers tomorrow. 48-hour psych hold for evaluation. Once she's there, she won't be coming back. And Uncle Martin? She tried to call him today. Martin's in memory care himself. Even if she reaches him, he's not competent to help her. I already talked to his facility. They're restricting his phone access for his own protection. They'd thought of everything. I listened as they went over more details, which accounts to drain next, how to handle the life insurance, what to tell extended family. They talked about me like I was already dead, like I was an obstacle to be removed, not a person who had raised them and loved them and sacrificed everything for them. When they finally left, after midnight, I sat in my dark room and stared at nothing. Tomorrow was Thursday. By Saturday, I'd be locked in a psychiatric facility, forcibly medicated, declared incompetent. Within weeks or months, the drugs would kill me. My death would look natural. An elderly widow who never recovered from her grief, who succumbed to dementia and heart failure in the care of professionals. No one would question it. Beth had made sure of that. I had less than 48 hours. The notebook sat open on my lap. I picked up my pen and kept writing. I didn't sleep that night. Couldn't afford to. At 4 a.m., I heard Celeste moving around downstairs. She was an early riser, always up before dawn to pray. I waited until I heard the back door close. She liked to sit on the porch with her tea. Then I moved quickly. Her room was at the end of the hall. She kept it neat, almost Spartan. A single bed, a small dresser, a cross on the wall. I felt like a criminal going through her things, but I didn't have a choice. The folder was in her top drawer, under her uniforms. I took it and her phone, an old Android with a cracked screen, and returned to my room. I used her phone to photograph every page of the false documentation, dated entries describing confusion and incidents that never happened. Then I found her text messages with Beth. October 10th, 2:17 a.m. She not taking pills. I think she hiding them. Beth's response, make sure she swallows. Watch her throat. If she resists, put them in her food. October 15th, 11:43 p.m. I cannot do this anymore. This is wrong, Beth. Remember Tommy. Remember your sister's address. I can make one phone call and destroy both of you. October 18th, 4:52 p.m. She asked about bank statements. What I tell her? Beth, tell her you don't know. Keep her calm. The commitment hearing is in 3 days. I photographed everything. Then I found Beth's number in the contacts and scrolled through their call history. 47 calls in the past 6 weeks. Most of them late at night, after I'd supposedly taken my medication and gone to sleep. I put everything back exactly as I'd found it, and returned the phone to Celeste's dresser. When I came out, she was standing in the hallway. We looked at each other in the pre-dawn darkness. You see the messages. she said. Not a question. Yes. Now you know. I am a terrible person. No, I said quietly. You're a trapped person. There's a difference. Her face crumpled. What you going to do? I'm going to stop them. But I need your help. I cannot. She will. I know what she'll do. But Celeste, if you help me now, I can protect you. I have a friend who's a retired federal prosecutor. She can help with your immigration status, get you legal representation. Why you help me? I hurt you. I help them hurt you. Because you're a victim too, and because you showed me that folder. You could have destroyed it, but you didn't. You gave me a chance to fight back. She was silent for a long moment. What you need me to do? First, I need you to act normal today. Give me the pills. I'll pretend to take them. Everything the same as always. Can you do that? She nodded. Second, tonight Beth and James are coming back. I heard them planning it. When they're here, I need you to keep your phone's voice recorder on. Hidden, but recording. Everything they say. Miss Beth, check my phone sometimes. Then we'll hide the recording file. Change the name to something innocent. A voice memo labeled grocery list or prayer notes. She won't look at those. Celeste wiped her eyes. Okay, I do this. But, Mrs. Ellington, if this not work, if they find out, it'll work. It has to. At 7 a.m. I called Patricia from Celeste's phone. She answered on the second ring. Francis, it's me. I'm using Celeste's phone. Listen, I don't have much time. I told her about the offshore accounts, the $240,000 already transferred, the commitment hearing scheduled for Friday. That's fast, Patricia said. Too fast for normal probate procedures. Someone greased some wheels. Can you stop it? Not officially. I'm retired, but I can make some calls. I have a friend who's a judge. Not the one hearing your case, but someone who can ask questions. Put pressure on. Make sure everything's by the book. That might make Beth move faster, or it might make her nervous enough to make a mistake. Right now, she thinks she has all the power. We need to change that calculation. After I hung up, I went downstairs. Celeste was making breakfast, oatmeal again with sliced bananas. She set the paper cup with my pills beside the bowl without meeting my eyes. Thank you, I said, loudly enough for anyone listening to hear. Then, quieter. Tonight? Don't forget. She nodded almost imperceptibly. The day crawled past. I stayed in my room mostly, writing in my notebook. Every conversation, every detail, building a timeline that showed the systematic nature of their fraud. At 2 p.m., someone knocked on the front door. Celeste answered it. I heard a man's voice, not James, asking for me. Mrs. Ellington resting, Celeste said. She not feeling good today. I'm from First National Bank. We've had some questions about recent transactions on her accounts. I need to speak with her directly. I came downstairs. The man at the door was young, maybe 30, wearing a cheap suit and an uncomfortable expression. He showed me his bank ID. Mrs. Ellington, I'm Derek Paulson from First National's Fraud Prevention Department. We've flagged some unusual activity on your accounts. Large transfers to overseas accounts. I need to verify that you authorized these transactions. I didn't authorize anything. His expression changed. Relief and concern mixing together. Ma'am, I'm going to need you to come to the bank with me. We need to file a formal dispute and freeze your accounts immediately. She cannot go, Celeste said, panic in her voice. She not well. Her daughter say, I'm going, I said firmly. Mrs. Ellington, please. Celeste, call Beth if you need to, but I'm going to the bank. Bah. In Derek Paulson's car, I asked, how did you know to check my accounts? We didn't, initially, but we got a call this morning from someone claiming to be you, trying to authorize another large transfer. The voice didn't match our recordings from your previous phone banking calls. When we investigated, we found the pattern of transfers over the past 6 weeks. It flagged our system. Someone was trying to transfer more money today, $50,000, to the same offshore account that received the previous transfers. Beth, getting greedy, moving too fast. At the bank, Derek walked me through the transfer history. $240,000 gone, just as I'd heard. But there were other transactions too, smaller ones I hadn't known about. Cash withdrawals of $2,000 or $3,000 twice a week for the past month. Do you recognize these? Derek asked. No, I haven't withdrawn cash in weeks. He pulled up security footage. I watched Beth walk into the bank, use my ATM card, withdraw money, over and over again. Dates and times stamped on each video. We'll need to file a police report, Derek said. This is felony theft. Not yet, I was thinking fast. If we file a police report, my daughter will know I'm onto her. She's planning to have me committed tomorrow, psychiatric evaluation. Once I'm locked in a facility, I won't be able to fight this. Derek looked uncomfortable. Ma'am, I understand, but can you freeze all my accounts? Prevent any more transfers or withdrawals? Yes, we can do that immediately. Then do it, and give me copies of everything. All the transfer records, all the ATM footage, all the documentation. But don't file a police report yet. Not until after tomorrow. He hesitated, then nodded. I'll need you to sign some forms. It took an hour to freeze everything and get copies of all the documentation. When Derek drove me home, Beth's Mercedes was in the driveway. She came out the front door as I was getting out of the car. Her face was tight with controlled fury. Mom, where have you been? The bank. The bank called me. They said you froze all your accounts. I did. Why would you do that? Derek Paulson stepped around the car. Mrs. Morrison? I'm Derek Paulson from First National's Fraud Prevention Department. Your mother's accounts showed suspicious activity. It's standard procedure to freeze them pending investigation. Beth's smile was poisonous. I'm sure there's been a misunderstanding. My mother isn't well. She gets confused about financial matters. That's why I've been managing her accounts with her power of attorney. You don't have power of attorney yet, I said. The trust documents haven't been finalized. Mom, we signed them yesterday. I signed preliminary documents. Nothing is final until the judge approves the competency evaluation, which hasn't happened yet. We stood there in my driveway facing each other. For the first time, I saw real fear in Beth's eyes. Mr. Paulson, she said, turning to the banker, my mother is scheduled for a psychiatric evaluation tomorrow. She's been diagnosed with dementia. I have the medical records, which I'd like to see, Derek said pleasantly, along with documentation of your authorization to access her accounts. If you could bring those to the bank tomorrow, we can sort this out. I'll have my lawyer contact you. That would be fine. After Derek left, Beth gripped my arm and pulled me toward the house, hard enough to hurt. What the hell do you think you're doing? Protecting myself. From what? From your own family trying to help you? From theft? From fraud? From being drugged and committed so you can steal my money? She stopped walking. You're paranoid. That's a symptom, Mom. That's exactly what Dr. Harrington warned us about. Dr. Harrington doesn't exist. Or if he does, I never saw him. Those medical records are fake. You're delusional. The bank has security footage of you withdrawing thousands of dollars from my accounts with my ATM card. How do you explain that? Her face went blank. Then she smiled. You gave me your card. You asked me to get cash for you because you were too confused to remember your PIN. No, I didn't. Yes, you did. You don't remember, see? This is exactly the problem. She was good. Even now, caught red-handed, she was twisting it around, making me doubt myself. But I had evidence now. Real, documented, time-stamped evidence. Celeste! Beth called into the house. Come here, please. Celeste appeared in the doorway looking terrified. Did my mother give me her ATM card and ask me to withdraw cash for her? Celeste looked at me, then at Beth. I could see the calculation in her eyes. Her son's safety balanced against her conscience. I don't know. I was not there, but you've witnessed my mother's confusion. Her memory problems, haven't you? Celeste's hands were shaking. Yes, sometimes she forget things. Sometimes? Beth's voice got harder. Or frequently? Daily? Celeste looked at me again. I gave her the smallest nod. Frequently, Celeste whispered. Beth turned back to me with triumph in her eyes. You see? Even your caregiver confirms it. Mom, you're sick. You need help. Tomorrow's evaluation is for your own good. We'll see what the judge says. The judge will see the medical records, the witness statements, the evidence of your declining mental state, and he'll do what's necessary to protect you from yourself. She went inside. I heard her on the phone immediately, calling her lawyer probably, trying to move up the timeline even more. Celeste touched my arm gently. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. It's okay. Did you do what I asked? She nodded and pulled out her phone. Showed me the voice recording app, running in the background, labeled Prayer Notes Thursday. Good. Keep it running, all night if you have to. At 10 p.m., James arrived. Then another car, Roger Pattinson, Beth's lawyer. They gathered in my dining room. I stayed upstairs with my door cracked open, listening. Celeste was somewhere nearby, her phone recording everything. Need to accelerate everything, Beth was saying. She's onto us. She froze the accounts. How much did you get out total? James asked. About $290,000. The rest is locked. Jesus, Beth. What do we do now? We proceed with the commitment hearing tomorrow. Emergency psychiatric hold. Once she's institutionalized, I can petition the court for emergency conservatorship based on immediate danger to herself. Will that work? Pattinson asked. It has to. We've built the paper trail. We have witnesses. We have medical documentation. The judge will side with us. And if he doesn't? Then we have a problem. Silence. Then James. What kind of problem? The kind where we might face criminal charges, theft, fraud, elder abuse. We're in too deep to turn back now. I felt cold all over. They weren't going to stop. Even caught, even exposed, they were going to push forward. Because the alternative was prison. There might be another way, Pattinson said carefully. What way? What if she became too incompetent to attend the hearing? Medical emergency? Stroke, perhaps. Or a bad fall. The words hung in the air like poison. You're talking about... James couldn't finish. I'm talking about protecting my clients. That's my job. Below me, in the dark dining room, my children sat in silence, considering murder. And somewhere in the shadows, Celeste's phone was recording every word. I didn't wait for them to come upstairs. At 10:45 p.m., I called Patricia from Celeste's phone, spoke quietly, urgently. They're talking about causing an accident, making sure I can't attend tomorrow's hearing. I need help now. I'm calling 911. No, not yet. I need witnesses first. Real witnesses who can't be dismissed as confused or biased. Francis, trust me. Can you get Father Torres here? And that judge friend of yours? At 11 o'clock at night? Please, Patricia. I'm out of time. 20 minutes later, I heard more cars in the driveway. I came downstairs slowly, visibly shaking. Not all of it performance. Beth was standing in the foyer when I reached the bottom step. Behind her, James and Pattinson. Through the window, I could see Patricia crossing the lawn with an elderly man in clerical collar. Father Michael Torres, the priest from St. Catherine's where Robert and I had been married 40 years ago. Mom, go back to bed, Beth said. No. You're not well. You need rest. The doorbell rang. Beth moved to block it, but I pushed past her and opened it myself. Mrs. Ellington, Father Torres said warmly. Patricia told me you wanted to see me. I hope it's not too late. It's not. Please come in. Both of you. Beth's face was livid. Mom, what is this? This is me protecting myself. I turned to Patricia. Did you bring Judge Morrison? He's parking. He'll be here in a moment. Judge Morrison? Pattinson went pale. Gerald Morrison? You know him? Patricia asked mildly. He presides over probate court. That's right. And he takes elder abuse very seriously, especially when it involves officers of the court. The final car pulled up. Judge Gerald Morrison was 72, silver-haired, with the bearing of someone who'd spent decades commanding courtrooms. He walked in without waiting for an invitation. Francis Ellington? I'm Judge Morrison. Patricia Jo asked me to come. She indicated there might be an urgent legal matter requiring immediate attention. Beth found her voice. Your Honor, this is highly irregular. My mother is scheduled for a competency evaluation tomorrow. She's not well. Then let's determine that now, the judge said. Mrs. Ellington, are you able to understand what's happening here? Perfectly. Do you know who I am? Judge Gerald Morrison, probate court. You presided over the Thompson estate case 3 years ago. It was in the papers. The family tried to claim their mother was incompetent when she donated her fortune to charity. You ruled in her favor. He smiled slightly. Indeed I did. You seem quite lucid to me. Your Honor, she has good moments and bad moments, Beth interjected. The medical documentation can wait, he said firmly. Right now, I'd like to hear Mrs. Ellington's concerns, in front of witnesses. Father Torres, would you be willing to serve as an impartial observer? Of course. We moved to the living room. Pattinson tried to leave, but Judge Morrison stopped him. Mr. Pattinson, please stay. If legal matters are discussed, having counsel present protects everyone. Celeste appeared from the kitchen, eyes wide. I nodded to her. She understood. Mrs. Ellington, Judge Morrison said, tell me what's been happening. I told them everything. The pills with the broken seal, the fake medical records, the offshore accounts, the $290,000 already stolen, the conversation I'd overheard about causing an accident to prevent me from attending tomorrow's hearing. Beth laughed. This is exactly what I'm talking about. Paranoid delusions. Classic dementia symptom. I have proof, I said quietly. I laid out the bank statements Derek Paulson had given me. The photographs of Celeste's folder with the falsified incident reports. The text messages between Beth and Celeste. These messages could be faked, Pattinson said weakly. The bank records aren't fake, Patricia said, and the security footage definitely isn't. Beth withdrawing thousands of dollars from her mother's accounts over the past 6 weeks. Would you like to see it? James had been silent through all of this, sitting on the couch with his head in his hands. Now he looked up, his face ashen. Beth, he said, tell me she's lying. Tell me you didn't actually— Shut up, James. Tell me we weren't really going to hurt her. I said shut up. Mr. Pattinson mentioned a stroke, I said. Or a bad fall. Something to make sure I couldn't attend the hearing. Judge Morrison's expression went cold. Mr. Pattinson, did you suggest harming Mrs. Ellington? That's taken out of context. I was speaking hypothetically. Celeste, I said, please bring your phone. She came forward, hands trembling, and held out her phone. I navigated to the voice recording labeled Prayer Notes Thursday and pressed play. Beth's voice filled the room. Need to accelerate everything. She's onto us. She froze the accounts. James, how much did you get out total? Beth, about $290,000. The rest is locked. The recording continued. Every word of their conspiracy laid bare. And then Pattinson's voice. What if she became too incompetent to attend the hearing? Medical emergency? Stroke, perhaps. Or a bad fall. Judge Morrison stood up. Mr. Pattinson, I'm reporting you to the state bar immediately. You've just conspired to commit elder abuse and possibly attempted murder in front of a judge and a priest. Pattinson bolted for the door. Patricia stepped in front of it. I've already called the police. They're outside. Beth turned on Celeste. You recorded us? You little— Leave her alone, I said. She was being blackmailed. You threatened to have her deported. Threatened her child. Your Honor. Father Torres spoke for the first time. In my role as spiritual advisor, I feel obligated to mention that Mrs. Ellington came to confession last week. She was lucid, articulate, and deeply concerned about her family's behavior. I found no evidence of confusion or incompetence. Thank you, Father. Judge Morrison pulled out his phone. I'm canceling tomorrow's hearing, and I'm issuing an immediate restraining order. Ms. Morrison, you are to have no contact with your mother pending criminal investigation. You can't do this, Beth said, but there was no heat in her voice anymore. Just hollow realization. I already have. James stood up suddenly. I want to confess. James, don't— Beth started. I'm done. He turned to me, tears streaming down his face. Mom, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Beth said it would be easy, that you'd never know, that we were just protecting your money for you. But then it got worse and worse, and I didn't know how to stop it. You could have said no, I said quietly. 15 years ago, you could have said no. This time, you could have said no. I know. I know. He was sobbing now. I'm weak. I've always been weak. But Mom, I swear, I didn't know about the pills. I didn't know she was drugging you. And when Pattinson talked about hurting you, that's when I knew I couldn't. But you didn't stop them. No, I didn't. He looked at me with red, swollen eyes. I don't deserve your forgiveness. But I'm ready to face whatever consequences come. I'll testify against Beth. Against Pattinson. I'll tell them everything. Beth stared at her brother with pure hatred. You weak, pathetic— Ms. Morrison, Judge Morrison interrupted. I suggest you remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. Police cars pulled into the driveway, blue lights flashing against the windows of my house. I watched as they handcuffed Beth and Pattinson, read them their rights, led them out to separate patrol cars. Beth went silently, her face a mask of cold fury. Pattinson kept protesting, insisting it was all a misunderstanding. James wasn't arrested, not yet. Judge Morrison had listened to his confession, noted his willingness to cooperate. You'll need to come to the station tomorrow, one of the officers told him. Don't leave town. I won't. James turned to me one last time. Mom, I know you can't forgive me, but I want you to know I'm going to spend the rest of my life trying to make this right, however long it takes. Start by getting help, I said. Real help. Therapy. Gamblers Anonymous. Whatever it takes to fix what's broken in you. I will. I promise. After they left, police, judge, lawyers, James, it was just me, Patricia, Father Torres, and Celeste in my living room. You should rest, Patricia said gently. This has been exhausting. Yes, I sat down heavily. But I can't rest yet. There's still so much to do. Getting my accounts unfrozen. Finding out how much money can be recovered. Dealing with the legal aftermath. I'll help with all of that, Patricia promised. Father Torres touched my shoulder. Francis, what you did tonight took tremendous courage, but also tremendous pain. Your own children. My own children tried to kill me for money. The words came out flat, empty. One of them is in jail. The other one might be headed there too, even if he cooperates. And I helped make them who they are. I enabled James 15 years ago. I must have done something wrong with Beth. No, Patricia said firmly. You didn't create their choices. They did. And they'll face the consequences of those choices. Celeste knelt beside my chair. Mrs. Ellington, I am so sorry. For everything. I hurt you. You saved me, I corrected. If you hadn't shown me that folder, if you hadn't recorded that conversation, they might have succeeded. But I helped them first. I gave you fake pills. I wrote lies about you. Because they threatened your son. You were protecting your child. I understand that, Celeste. Better than you know. She cried then, deep sobs of relief and shame and exhaustion. I held her hand while she cried. This woman who'd been trapped between impossible choices. What happens to her now? I asked Patricia. Immigration status? I have a lawyer friend who specializes in asylum cases. Given that Celeste was being coerced into illegal activity by her employer, she has grounds for a T visa, victim of human trafficking and coercion. Will she be able to stay? Bring her son here? I'll make sure of it. Father Torres blessed us all before he left. Go with God, Francis. And remember, forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. It means choosing not to carry the poison of hatred. After everyone left, Celeste and I sat in the quiet house. Through the window, I could see the maple tree in the backyard, its branches dark against the night sky. What you do now? Celeste asked. Now? Now I figure out how to live with what my children tried to do to me. How to rebuild a life that doesn't include them. Not Mr. James. He say he sorry. Sorry isn't enough. Not yet. Maybe not ever. I looked at her. But people can change. If they choose to. If they work at it. She nodded slowly. I understand. You should sleep, Celeste. Tomorrow we'll start putting everything back together. But I didn't sleep. I sat in my living room until dawn, thinking about trust and betrayal, about the children I'd raised and the strangers they'd become, and about whether redemption was really possible, or just a story we tell ourselves to make sense of the unforgivable. 3 months later, I stood in the lobby of the courthouse waiting for the sentencing hearing. Patricia sat beside me on the wooden bench. Celeste was there too, holding Tommy's hand. She'd brought her son from New York 2 weeks ago, finally able to live with him after her T visa was approved. You ready for this? Patricia asked. No, but it doesn't matter. The courtroom doors opened. We filed in and took our seats. Beth entered in handcuffs, wearing an orange jumpsuit. She looked smaller than I remembered, thinner. Her hair had gone gray at the roots. She didn't look at me. James entered separately, dressed in a suit. He'd been out on bail, cooperating with prosecutors. His testimony had sealed the case against Beth and Pattinson. He sat on the opposite side of the courtroom, alone. Judge Morrison presided, the same judge who'd come to my house that night. He reviewed the charges: elder abuse, fraud, theft, conspiracy to commit assault. Beth had been convicted on all counts. Pattinson had taken a plea deal. Ms. Morrison, the judge said, do you have anything to say before sentencing? Beth stood. For a moment, I thought she might actually apologize, might show some shred of remorse. My mother is a bitter, vindictive woman who destroyed her own family, she said. Everything I did was to protect myself from her manipulation. Even now, even caught, convicted, facing prison, she couldn't admit what she'd done. Judge Morrison's expression didn't change. The court finds your lack of remorse deeply troubling. Taking into account the severity of your crimes, the vulnerable nature of your victim, and your complete failure to accept responsibility, I'm sentencing you to 8 years in state prison. You'll be eligible for parole in 5 years. 8 years. Beth would be 52 when she got out. She was led away without looking back. Pattinson was next. His plea deal got him 3 years and disbarment. He apologized, a carefully worded statement written by his lawyer. It meant nothing. After the hearing, James approached me in the hallway. We hadn't spoken since that night. I'd refused his calls, returned his letters unopened. Mom, he said quietly, can we talk? What's left to say? I've been going to therapy 3 times a week and GA meetings every day. He pulled out a sobriety chip, 90 days. I know this doesn't fix anything, but I'm trying. Trying for whom? For me or for the judge? For me. For Linda and Sophie. For the man I should have been all along. His voice broke. I know I don't deserve forgiveness. I know what I did was unforgivable. But Mom, please, can you at least let me try to be a better person? Even if you never want to see me again? I looked at this man who used to be my little boy, who I'd protected and enabled and loved despite everything. I received a letter from your lawyer, I said, about the restitution payments. James had agreed to pay back his share, $116,000, his 40% of what they'd stolen. The court ordered payments of $2,000 a month. It would take him 5 years. I'll pay every penny, he said, even if it takes longer. I closed the business. I'm working 2 jobs now. We sold the house, moved into a rental. Linda knows everything. She's standing by me somehow. We're trying to rebuild. Good. That's good. Does that mean... Can I hope that someday... James, I stopped him. I don't know. I honestly don't know if I'll ever be able to trust you again. What you did, what you were willing to do, I know, but I'm not closing the door completely. If you keep working on yourself, if you actually change, we'll see. In a year, maybe 2, we can talk again. Really talk. His eyes filled with tears. Thank you, Mom. Don't thank me yet. You have a long road ahead. And James, if you ever gamble again, if you ever lie to me again, if you ever put money before family again, we're done. Permanently. Do you understand? Yes, I understand. I watched him walk away. Patricia touched my arm. That must have been hard. Harder than sending Beth to prison. At least with Beth, I know where I stand. She'll never change. But James might, or he might not. But you gave him a chance. That's more than most people would do. We walked out into the bright December morning. Snow was falling, light and clean. What now? Patricia asked. Now I rebuild. The house sold in January. I couldn't stay there anymore. Too many memories. Too much betrayal soaked into the walls. I bought a small condo closer to downtown. 2 bedrooms. View of the river. Enough space for me and occasional guests. Celeste asked if she could work for me again. I said no. You need to live your own life now, with Tommy, without being anyone's employee. Instead, I helped her find a better job, working at St. Catherine's Parish office. Father Torres had created a position specifically for her. She and Tommy lived in the apartment above the church hall, and I visited them for dinner once a week. You are like grandmother to Tommy, Celeste said one evening while we washed dishes. Better grandmother than his real one would have been. Don't, I said. Don't make me a substitute for what you lost. I not lose anything. I gain family. Real family. The kind you choose. That made me cry. I didn't cry much anymore. I'd used up my tears in those first weeks after the arrests, but this was different. Not grief. Something closer to gratitude. Patricia became a true friend. We met for coffee every Wednesday, took walks along the river, played cards on Friday nights. She introduced me to her book club, 6 women, all over 60, all sharp and funny and fierce. You fit right in, Patricia said after my first meeting. A woman who took down her own children to save herself? You're our hero. I wasn't anyone's hero. I was just someone who'd survived. But I appreciated the sentiment. Derek Paulson from the bank helped me recover most of the stolen money. The offshore accounts were frozen, funds repatriated. Out of the $290,000 stolen, I got back $267,000. The rest was gone, spent on Beth's legal fees before she was convicted. I put half the recovered money in a trust. Not for James, not yet, maybe not ever. For Sophie, his daughter, my granddaughter. She was 11 now, innocent of her parents' crimes. When she turned 25, she'd have access to enough money for college, for a house, for a start in life. Linda brought Sophie to visit once, in March. We met at a park, neutral territory. Sophie was cautious, confused about why we hadn't seen each other in so long. Grandma Frances, she said quietly, did we do something wrong? No, sweetheart, you didn't do anything wrong. Then why did you go away? I looked at Linda. She nodded slightly. Permission to tell the truth, or at least part of it. Sometimes grown-ups make mistakes, I said. Big mistakes that hurt the people they love. When that happens, everyone needs time to heal. But it wasn't your fault, Sophie. None of this was your fault. She hugged me then, tight and fierce. I missed you. I missed you too. We saw each other once a month after that. Brief visits, supervised by Linda. I couldn't forgive James yet. Might never fully forgive him. But I could love his daughter. I could be a grandmother to her, the way I should have been all along. In April, I started volunteering at the Elder Abuse Hotline. Other people needed help now, people trapped like I'd been trapped. I couldn't save everyone, but I could listen. I could share my story. I could help them find resources, lawyers, advocates. You're good at this, the program director told me. Have you ever considered doing it professionally? We need trained advocates. I thought about it. At 64, starting a new career seemed absurd. But then again, I'd already done the hardest thing I'd ever have to do. What was a little job training compared to that? I enrolled in a certificate program, Elder Law Advocacy. 6 months of classes, then an internship. By September, I had a part-time job helping seniors navigate legal systems, protect their assets, recognize abuse. It wasn't the retirement I'd imagined. But it was meaningful. It was mine. On what would have been Robert's 68th birthday, I visited his grave, brought flowers, white roses, his favorite, sat on the cold ground and talked to him like he was still there. I wish you could have protected me, I said. But you couldn't. You died and left me alone with them. And I had to save myself. The wind moved through the cemetery trees. Not an answer, just wind. But it felt like permission somehow. Permission to be angry at him for dying. Permission to be proud of myself for surviving. I'm doing okay, I told him. Better than okay. I'm building something new. It's not the life we planned, but it's mine. And that's enough. When I got home, there was a letter waiting. From James. I almost threw it away unopened, like all the others. But something made me read it. Inside was a check for $2,000, his monthly restitution payment. And a letter. Short, handwritten. Mom, I know you probably won't read this, but I need to tell you anyway. I've been clean for 6 months now. No gambling, no lies. Linda and I are in counseling. Sophie is doing well in school. I got promoted at work. Nothing fancy, but steady. I think about what I did every day. It eats at me. But I'm learning to live with that guilt, to use it to be better. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm just trying to be someone who deserves to ask someday. Thank you for what you're doing for Sophie. The trust fund, Linda told me. You didn't have to do that. But you did. That tells me there's still some part of you that believes I can change. I won't let you down again. I promise. James. I folded the letter and put it in a drawer. Next to it was the sobriety chip he'd shown me at the courthouse. 90 days. He'd left it on the bench when he walked away. I'd picked it up, not sure why. Now it had a companion. 6 months clean. Maybe redemption was possible after all. Not guaranteed, not easy, but possible. Or maybe I was just tired of carrying hatred. Tired of letting Beth's poison infect the rest of my life. Tired of being defined by what had been done to me instead of what I'd survived. Patricia called that evening. Wednesday coffee still on? Absolutely. Good. I'm bringing someone I want you to meet. Another woman who went through something similar. I think you two would get along. Always recruiting for your survivors club? Someone has to. I could hear her smile through the phone. We're better together, Francis. Stronger together. She was right. I'd spent so much of my life thinking family meant blood, thinking love meant obligation, thinking forgiveness meant forgetting. But I'd learned different. Family was the people who showed up when you needed them. Love was the choice to keep showing up, even when it was hard. And forgiveness wasn't forgetting. It was deciding that the past wouldn't have power over your future. I looked around my small condo. 2 bedrooms, view of the river, walls still mostly bare. Not the house I'd lived in for 38 years. Not the life I'd planned with Robert. But mine. Completely, utterly mine. I turned on the lamp in the corner. Robert's old reading lamp that I'd kept. Made myself tea in the kitchen that was just big enough for one. Settled into my chair with a book from Patricia's club. Outside, the city lights reflected on the dark water. People moving through their lives, carrying their own secrets, their own survival stories. I was one of them now. Not a victim. Not even just a survivor. Just Francis Ellington.